A small Essex council just won a fight no one thought possible, forcing asylum seekers out of a hotel by court order. It's a first-of-its-kind ruling, and it could spread across Britain. The question is, was Epping a one-off or the beginning of something much bigger? A landmark High Court ruling on August 19th has granted Epping Forest District Council a temporary injunction forcing asylum seekers to vacate the Bell Hotel in Essex. The decision marks the first successful legal challenge of its kind, potentially opening the floodgates for similar actions across Britain. Justice Stephen Eyre ruled in favour of the council after dismissing an 11th-hour intervention attempt by Home Secretary Yvette Cooper. Asylum seekers must be moved out of the hotel by 4 p.m. BST on September 12th, the judge ruled. All 80 rooms at the hotel are seemingly occupied, and as of last month, it was home to about 140 men. The council's barrister, Philip Coppell KC, claimed that Somani Hotels had failed to notify the local planning authority about the change of use and added,
"For them, the Bell Hotel is no more a hotel than is a borstal to a young offender."
Conservative Council leader Chris Whitbread welcomed the ruling, saying,
"The last few weeks have placed an intolerable strain on our community, but today we have some great news. What I call upon the residents tonight is, if they decide to go outside the Bell Hotel, don't protest, don't over-celebrate. This is the beginning, it is not the end."
The Home Office had warned that the decision would substantially impact its ability to house asylum seekers in hotels across the UK. Edward Brown KC, representing the government, argued that any injunction could lead to other councils making similar applications, which would aggravate the pressures on the asylum estate. Border Security Minister Angela Eagle responded to the ruling, stating,
"This government inherited a broken asylum system. At the peak, there were over 400 hotels open. We will continue working with local authorities and communities to address legitimate concerns. Our work continues to close all asylum hotels by the end of this Parliament."
The protests at the Bell Hotel began after 41-year-old Hadush Batu from Ethiopia was charged with sexual assault, harassment, and inciting a girl to engage in sexual activity. He has denied the offences and remains in custody ahead of his trial. A second resident, Mohammed Shawak, a 32-year-old Syrian national, has been charged with multiple assault counts relating to incidents within the hotel. Reform UK leader Nigel Farage immediately capitalised on the victory, declaring,
"This community stood up bravely despite being slandered as far-right and have won."
Writing in The Telegraph, Farage called for nationwide action, urging people to hold peaceful protests outside the migrant hotels.
"Let's hold peaceful protests outside the migrant hotels and put pressure on local councils to go to court to get the illegal immigrants out. Because now we know that together we can win. I can say today the councils controlled by the party I lead, Reform UK, will be doing everything in their power to follow Epping's lead."
His deputy leader, Richard Tice, announced that Reform UK would pursue similar cases across the 10 council areas it controls, including North and West Northampton Shire Councils, Doncaster and Kent and Staffordshire County Councils. Conservative-controlled Broxbourne Borough Council became the first authority to respond, announcing it would take legal advice as a matter of urgency about pursuing its injunction against a 4-star asylum hotel in Hertfordshire. Council leader Karina Gander told the BBC that Epping had set a precedent, adding,
"The government has failed and now local councils are standing up. Enough is enough now."
Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp predicted widespread replication of the legal strategy.
It is very likely that many other councils will now take similar legal action. This would leave the government's asylum accommodation policy in disarray, given the chaos being caused in communities, including serious criminal offences such as sexual attacks.
Conservative leader Kemi Badenoch, representing the neighbouring Northwest Essex constituency, described Epping as one of many towns struggling with asylum hotels, declaring,
"I do have a plan. Bring back a proper deterrent and remove all illegal arrivals immediately."
The government faces mounting pressure as approximately 200 hotels continue housing asylum seekers, with some contracts extending until 2029. Dan Jarvis, Minister of State for Security, acknowledged the challenge, telling BBC Radio 4.
The government had never thought that hotels were an appropriate source of accommodation for asylum seekers.
When pressed about relocating the Bell Hotel residents, Jarvis said the government was looking at options for suitably appropriate alternative accommodation. The Epping victory represents a significant shift in the legal landscape surrounding asylum accommodation. Unlike previous unsuccessful challenges, this case succeeded by demonstrating both planning law violations and public safety risks.
It thereby sidestepped the public scrutiny and explanation which would otherwise have taken place if an application for planning permission had been made.
Care for Calais, a charity supporting asylum seekers, reported that hotel residents have felt frightened and frustrated after being threatened, chased, and having objects thrown at them since the protests began. The organisation advocates for ending hotel use entirely, with spokesperson Imran Hussain explaining.
We think asylum seekers should not be in hotels, Juan. There are cheaper, better ways of supporting people, and we think the government should end the use of hotels as fast as it can.
The ruling comes amid heightened tensions following last summer's nationwide riots, when misinformation about the Southport attacker being a Muslim asylum seeker sparked violent unrest. Assistant Chief Constable Ian Drummond-Smith, leading riot investigations, told the New York Times that police had observed some isolated pockets of disorder this summer, but noted improved preparedness.
We've learned lessons, and we've sharpened up our ability to mobilize quickly around the country.
Essex police confirmed that 16 people have been charged with offences relating to disturbances during several protests outside the Bell Hotel, which became violent on occasion. The demonstrations have attracted both anti-immigration protesters and pro-migrant rights supporters. With 32,300 asylum seekers still housed in hotels and record channel crossings continuing under the Labor government, the Epping precedent threatens to accelerate the closure timeline beyond the government's 2029 target. Ministers now face the dual challenge of finding alternative accommodation while managing the political fallout from what opposition parties frame as a vindication of local community concerns over asylum policy.